Welcome to Delphi Labs. This is the second part of a DataSnap Lifecycle of Server Methods episode. So in the previous part we have created a DataSnap server application and DataSnap client application. The server application contains a server method, DS server component, and a DS server class component that represents a server methods class. It has a lifecycle property that we can select to be of different types. So there are three different possibilities here: session, server, and invocation. And I'm going to have three different DS server class components connected to my server component, demonstrating different options for setting a lifecycle property. So I'm going to rename this DS server class. First of all, actually, it's a good idea to stop my server because it's still running from the previous presentation. And I have a session here, so I'm going to change the name of the server class to have something to do with session, so I can easily actually identify which is which. Okay, so now I have this onGet class, so that's my server methods 2. So actually what I'm going to do is I want to actually save this server methods class, and I'm going to have three different server methods classes. So to make sure that I'm actually not lost, I'm going to rename this unit to server methods unit session, so I know that we are going to a session component. And also I'm going to change the name of this server methods to have something to do with session, so I'm going to refactor this method, so I'm going to the server methods session. So now I have really very quickly can have a different name. So let me see if my project still compiles. Probably it does not, because things has changed. No, luckily this is now okay. So on my server container unit, so let me see it, it's here. I need to change this because I no longer want to use this server methods unit, but I want to use my server session unit. So now this is unknown. So inside this there is this unit, there is this name of the class. So I'm going to go ahead to my container and replace this with just the type of my server methods session this time. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add two more server class components. So I'm going to press F6, do a DS server class component, and I'm going to actually copy and paste, so I have two of them. I like to organize in such a way that DS server is in the middle, all my server class components are at the right side, and all my transport components on the left side. So I'm going to rename this DS server class 1 to something like DS server class server. Make sure that I have a lifecycle to server, and I'm going to need to implement a onGet class event very shortly. Also, I need to make sure that my server property is pointing to my DS server component. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for my third, and this is going to be invocation. My server class is going to be called invocation. I need to be connected to my server component, and on get class event I need to specify a different value. So I cannot reuse the same type across these different DS server components. I need to really go ahead, and I'm going to actually do a little trick. I'm going to select all here, Control C, so I can copy and paste, and I'm going to add to my project, I'm going to add a unit called something like, so it's very similar, server methods unit, but it's going to be called server. Okay, and I'm going to replace everything except for the name of the unit, so I'm going to change it with a different name. So I'm going to have this session is going to be called server, and I need to change things here as well. So I'm going to change even here and here and here. So I have a completely different class with exactly the same functionality. I'm going to save it. I'm going to do this trick one more time, add new unit. I'm going to save this unit this time as an unit invocation. Okay. So my unit invocation, and again I'm going to replace everything for the I need to copy this again, so I'm going to select everything here, copy, go to my invocation that is empty at this stage. Now I will have a very nice server methods unit invocation, so I need to take this invocation and also replace in the name of my class. So I will have here invocation, I'm going to have an invocation, and I can even have a this like this, so it's really very nice. So at this moment my server application contains 3 different server methods classes, and they provide exactly the same functionality to providing a unit identifier. And on my container unit, so that's my container unit, I need to also use these other units that I have generated. So use unit, I'm going to use my invocation and my server, add to the implementation clause. And now I need to implement these guys. So in my server get class, I'm going to have so this is my DES server. So this is going to my server here as well. And the last one is going to be invocation, so I'm going to do a server methods invocation. Okay, so that's great. And now I should see that when I will be calling this getID methods from the client, I will have a different result. So now it's all implemented. I need to make sure that my project is compiled, and this when this is running. So I need to go ahead and run without debugging, minimize it. Now in the client, I need to modify my client a little bit because now my client, the server methods has changed, so I have to regenerate my proxy. So I need to make sure that I'm connected to my SQL connection, SQL through the SQL connection to my DataSnap server, and say generate DataSnap classes. So something is wrong. I probably need to disconnect and reconnect again, and now generate DataSnap classes. So that's my new proxy. I'm going to actually see that the name of the unit has not changed, but now for every server methods class I have a different proxy class with a different getID method. So now I'm going to change my a little bit my user interface. So I'm going to rename this button to be button, and let's say this is my first maybe server, button server, and getID, maybe just getID just server, so we know exactly what we are talking about. Label 1 is going to be called label server. Okay, so I'm going to actually copy these two guys and copy and paste them, so I have some more. Now I can change things. So now this server, so the next is going to be session, and also the name of the button will be button session, like this. And last one is going to be called button invocation. I'm going to copy this invocation and paste it here in the caption property. Okay, invocation. So now we have a label server, and I'm going to have a label session, and now also label going to be called label invocation. So now if I save it all, I have, that's my first code, so that has changed. So now it's no longer server methods client, but that's my server methods server that I need to instantiate, and that's my server, and the label is now called label server. Okay, so that should be fine. So I have two more of them. So I have copied also the actually I need to change, so we don't, because currently all these buttons are pointing to the same event. So I don't want this to be like this. I want to generate a brand new event, and I'm going to do the same thing for this other one. So I don't want to have a server click event, but I want to have a new one. So now I can basically just copy this code and modify it a little bit. So I'm going to copy the invocation code here. So I have my server methods invocation client. I need to make sure that I instantiate the right one, and the label invocation has to be label invocation. And I'm going to copy this code again, and I'm going to move it into the session. So I have implementation for all the buttons. So that's going to be my server methods session, and I need to make sure that this is the right type and label session like this. Okay, so now my client is fully implemented. I can just run it, and that's my first client, and I'm going to run one more instance. So now I have two clients, so one next to each other. Okay, let me call the server. So we got this identifier. So if the server if the server methods has a lifecycle of server, we are talking from different clients to exactly the same instance. So if I call this getID again and again, this does not change. This is just one instance. Now if I call getSession, I get different values for different clients, because for every client connected there is a different session instance created in the server. So if I click this again, nothing is changing because it's still the same instance. For invocation, every time I press a button, I will get a different instance, because that's the idea of invocation, that every time you call it, the server methods class instance is created on demand and destroyed after it's not needed. Okay, thank you very much for watching this Delphi Labs DataSnap Lifecycle demo part 2.